There's a room in the back of the house that no one talks about. It's not locked nor hidden, but it might as well be. The air around it feels thick, stale, cold even on warm summer nights. And every time 9-year-old Elsie walks past it, her little fingers curl tighter around her mother's hand. "Don't go in there," her mother once whispered, her voice shaky with fear, masked as calm. That room belonged to someone who doesn't like being forgotten. It started when Elsie's family moved into the old Victorian house, passed down through 3 generations. Her father had inherited it after the death of his estranged aunt, a woman rumored to have dabbled in strange crafts and spiritualism. No one ever visited her. No one really knew what she did inside the house, but the neighbors still remembered the crying, the laughter, and the silence. During the first week, while exploring the attic with a flashlight, Elsie found it. The doll. It was sitting upright in a wooden rocking chair under a dusty white sheet, perfectly still, as though it had been waiting. Its eyes were glassy and too lifelike, dark blue marbles rimmed with the kind of lashes you only see on a sleeping child. Its dress was pale lace, yellowed with age, and in its lap was a tiny stitched pillow that read, "Good night, sweetheart." Elsie, too young to fear what should not be touched, brought the doll down and placed it on a shelf in her room. That night she had her first nightmare. She dreamed of being watched, not chased, not harmed, just watched. Her bedroom in the dream looked exactly the same. The moonlight fell in through the same angle. Her closet door creaked just slightly open, and at the foot of her bed stood the doll, only taller, its head tilted unnaturally to the side, lips curled into a faint smile. When she woke up, cold sweat soaking her pillow, the doll was still sitting on the shelf. But it wasn't in the same position. It had turned, just slightly, just enough to face the bed. At breakfast, Elsie asked her mom if she had come into her room during the night. Her mother hesitated. "No," she said. "Why?" Elsie shrugged. The doll moved. Her mother froze, spatula hovering above the sizzling pan. "What doll?" "The one from the attic." Her mother turned pale. "You didn't bring it down, did you?" Elsie nodded. Her mother didn't speak the rest of the morning, but that night Elsie heard her parents arguing. Words like dangerous, should have burned it, and its back slipped through the walls. On the third night, Elsie woke up gasping. The doll was gone from the shelf. She looked around in panic. Her nightlight flickered. It was sitting on her bedside table, facing her, and in its tiny fabric hands was a lock of her hair. The house felt darker after that. Shadows seemed to stretch longer. Mirrors held on to reflections a bit too long, and Elsie swore she heard giggling whenever she closed her eyes. She tried to tell her parents, but they dismissed it as imagination. "You're just having bad dreams," her father said. "Maybe put the doll back in the attic." She did, but the next night it was back, and closer. Then came the whispers, late at night, barely audible, like someone humming a lullaby just under their breath. Sometimes it sounded like her name. Sometimes it was just breathing. And then one night, the doll moved. While she watched, it turned its head, slowly like cracking bones, and blinked. Elsie stopped sleeping. Her eyes grew hollow. Her hands shook. She began drawing strange pictures. The doll standing over her bed, the doll in flames, the doll with its mouth wide open, revealing rows of teeth. Still, her parents wouldn't believe her, until the night her mother walked into Elsie's room to find the girl curled up on the floor, rocking back and forth, staring blankly at the ceiling. The doll was in her bed, tucked under the blanket. smiling. They tried to get rid of it. They burned it in the fireplace. It came back the next night, unharmed. They buried it in the woods. It was waiting in the kitchen the next morning. That's when the dream spread to her parents. The father woke up screaming, clawing at his throat. The mother found a child's handprint on the mirror, written in breath. Every night, the doll was in a different place, always watching, always closer. And one night, the air in the house grew heavier. Every room, every hallway felt suffocating. The walls themselves seemed to groan at night, and the doll, always the doll, appeared wherever Elsie went. She once locked it in the tool shed, double-bolted the door, and threw the key into the storm drain. It was waiting on the kitchen table the next morning, wearing a different dress. One no one recognized. A dress that wasn't dusty or torn, but pristine, fresh as if sewn yesterday. The family stopped sleeping. Her mother took to reciting prayers in every room, lighting incense and pacing with a trembling candle. Her father, once a logical man, started digging through old family journals, trying to trace who the doll had originally belonged to. He found an entry from 1913. She does not age. She does not burn. She whispers our secrets to herself while we sleep. Every night I wake to see her standing over our beds, mouthing words I cannot hear. The nursemaid warned us. We did not listen. Now it's too late. The doll belongs to no one, but once it chooses, it does not let go. The name at the bottom of the page was stitched onto the back of the doll's neck. Elsie started hearing a second voice inside her head. Faint at first, like a faraway lullaby, then louder, urgent, whispering in a language she didn't know. One morning she woke up in the backyard, barefoot, clutching a dead sparrow in her hands. No one knew how she got there. Later that day, she found drawings in her notebook she didn't remember making. Circles within circles, eyes without lids, numbers written backward. At the center of every page, the doll, larger than before, with its mouth now open, and every single time the phrase, "Don't blink." She moves when you blink. They brought in a priest. He didn't last 20 minutes. He stepped inside Elsie's room and immediately froze, whispering, "Not a child's spirit, not human," before stumbling back outside, eyes red, clutching his crucifix so hard it left welts on his hand. "I can't help you," he told them. "This thing, it doesn't belong to this world." One night the power went out, all the lights all at once. A crackling sound filled the house, like 1,000 fingernails against glass. Elsie's mother screamed from the hallway. Her father rushed to find her, but the hall had changed. It felt longer, endless. No matter how far he walked, the doors didn't appear. Just more darkness, and the sound of tiny footsteps behind him. Elsie sat on her bed, unmoving, the doll in her lap. Her eyes were wide open. So were the dolls. They were whispering to each other. Same voice, same words, over and over. "Sleep now. She's here. Sleep now. She's here." The house itself began to change. Family portraits faded. Clocks ran backward. Windows showed reflections of rooms that no longer existed. At night, they heard a girl crying from the walls. Not Elsie. Someone else. The crying always stopped at exactly 3:33 a.m. That's when the house would go quiet, utterly still, and the doll would appear wherever they were, seated, poised, waiting. One day the father tried to leave with Elsie. He carried her out the front door, past the porch, down the steps. But no matter how far he walked, they never left the property. The neighborhood was gone. The street was gone. Only the house remained. Behind them, the front door stood open. The doll was standing in the doorway now, not sitting, standing, watching. Inside, the clocks had all stopped. Elsie's voice had changed, softer, older, echoing even when she whispered. And her mother no longer spoke at all. She just sat in the corner, staring into nothing, mumbling the same three words. She's not Elsie. And now at night, the doll doesn't move anymore. She doesn't have to. She waits, because now someone else is moving for her. Rain began falling every night, only at night, hard, insistent, like fists pounding against the roof. And yet each morning the ground outside was dry, not a drop on the windows, not a trace in the gutters. They stopped asking why. Elsie no longer answered to her name. Her eyes, once light hazel, had taken on a dull, glassy blue, almost identical to the doll's. She spoke less now, and when she did, it was in that soft, lulling tone, like she was speaking to someone behind you, someone standing just out of frame. Her drawings became more detailed, more violent. People without faces. Rooms that didn't exist in the house, yet felt familiar. One of them showed a door with 7 locks. Behind it, a crib, a mirror, and the doll. Only in the drawing, the doll was holding a child. One night, her father decided to sleep in Elsie's room. Just for one night, he said. He set up a cot beside her bed and placed the doll, carefully, respectfully, on a shelf facing the corner. He left the nightlight on, set his phone to record, and slept. At 2:17 a.m., the phone recorded movement, a click, not a loud sound, just a soft shift. The video showed the shelf, empty, then static. Then for one frame only, the doll, inches from the camera, mouth wide open, eyes looking straight through the lens. Her father was never the same after that. He didn't speak for 3 days. Then he began carving symbols into the floorboards with a kitchen knife, repeating, "We must bind her. We must bind her. We must bind her." But he didn't know how. The neighbors noticed the house growing darker. Even in daylight, it looked wrong. Colors faded, curtains never drawn back. Mail piling up. Some say they saw a little girl at the upstairs window, just standing there, unmoving, her hand pressed to the glass. The same girl, night after night. But no one saw her blink. One desperate evening, Elsie's mother found an old woman who had once lived on the same street decades ago. She was blind now and in a home, but when she heard the house's address, she grew silent, then whispered, "The doll doesn't haunt the house. The house is the doll's body. You can leave, but if you take her with you, she'll always return. And if you don't take her, she'll bring you back." They tried again to destroy it. Hammer, fire, acid. Nothing worked. Its porcelain didn't crack. Its skin didn't burn. And each time they tried, Elsie screamed in pain. Not just fear, real, writhing agony. Like the doll was inside her. Like it was part of her. Like it had always been. One night, the entire house woke to music. A child's lullaby playing from nowhere. The music box had been buried weeks ago, along with the doll. And yet the tune played on, perfectly clear, echoing from the walls, under the bed, behind the mirrors. And with it came a whisper in every voice the family had ever known. Some still alive, some long dead. Time to sleep, time to sleep, time to sleep. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. The mirrors no longer showed reflections, only static. And in every mirror, the doll appeared, moving slowly, frame by frame, closer to the glass. Her hands were no longer stitched. They were real, pale, software reaching. Now there are more dolls in the house. Elsie found them one by one, behind walls, inside the vents, beneath the floorboards, each with a name carved on its foot, names they recognized. Her grandmother, her uncle, even their family dog. Each doll had the same smile. Each one began to blink. And now when the house is silent, when no one speaks, and the clocks no longer tick, they hear the voice of the first doll, clear, amused, eternal. I watch you sleep because I'm already inside the dream. Soon you won't wake up. Soon you'll stay. It had been 6 nights since anyone in the house had truly slept. Sleep had become dangerous. The last time Elsie's father closed his eyes, he dreamed of being inside a doll's body, frozen, unable to move, watching his family from behind glass eyes, screaming without sound as the doll used his body like a marionette. He woke up standing at the foot of Elsie's bed, holding the pillow over her face. He didn't remember getting there, but the doll was gone from the room, and his hands smelled like dust and lavender. Elsie had stopped eating. She claimed she didn't need food anymore, only the whispers. She would sit at the top of the stairs for hours, holding the original doll in her arms, stroking its hair, and muttering in a slow rhythm. She says I was never real. She says I was the dream. I remember waking up inside her arms. Her mother tried to shake her, slap her, scream at her. Elsie only turned her head slowly and said in a voice not her own, "That wasn't very nice, Mommy. She doesn't like when you yell." One night, the family photo album changed. Photos were missing faces. Others had been replaced, images they'd never taken. Elsie sitting with the doll at a tea party that never happened. Her father as a child in a different house, with the doll on his shoulder. Her mother asleep in bed, the doll standing on her chest. Some photos showed things in the background, hands coming out of closets, shapes behind curtains, eyes under the bed. And in every single picture, the doll was present, even in ones taken before they found her. The family began hearing footsteps in the attic again. Not rats, not wind, bare feet, deliberate, slow. One step every few seconds, and always at 3:33 a.m. Each time they checked, the attic was empty, except for one new item placed there in the center of the floor, a child's shoe. Then the next night, a second shoe. Then a cracked baby monitor. Then a fingernail. Then a lock of hair tied with red thread. The television turned itself on at night, always static, always humming. Until one night, there was an image, a live feed, of Elsie's room. Except Elsie was asleep on the couch, right next to them, and the feed showed her sleeping in the bed, next to the doll, and both were breathing. The house no longer obeyed natural light. Sunset came earlier inside. Dawn never quite arrived. Sometimes rooms were missing. A hallway would go nowhere. A door would open into a closet that had never been there, and then vanish when closed again. Her father left the house once, only once. He returned within the hour, eyes bloodshot, mouth trembling. He walked straight to his study, locked the door, and never came out. When they finally broke the lock, the room was empty, except for his glasses, and the doll, sitting on the desk chair, wearing his tie. Elsie had grown silent now. She no longer responded to questions. She only stared, and sometimes she mimicked voices from the past. Her dead aunt, the priest, the neighbor who'd moved away last year. At dinner, she turned to her mother and said, "You should be grateful. She chose me first. You're still in the waiting line." Then the dream spread. The neighbors began reporting the same doll in their houses, at the edge of their vision, in the reflection of their microwaves. sitting at the foot of their beds, and always, always gone by morning. Only one child in the neighborhood said its name. A little boy who hadn't spoken in 2 years suddenly whispered, Mirel. No one taught him that word, but when Elsie heard it, she smiled, and the doll blinked. Now, when night falls, the house breathes. It exhales cold into every room, the windows fog from the inside, the mirrors ripple, and in every surface, from every angle, the doll is watching, not moving, not speaking, just waiting. The morning Elsie disappeared, the house was silent, not peaceful, hollow. Her mother found her bed neatly made, her stuffed animals arranged in a perfect circle around the doll. It sat in the middle, upright, hands folded on its lap like it had just finished telling a story. The curtains were drawn, the air was still, and carved into the wood of the floor beneath the doll, in looping cursive, She's awake now, I'm inside. They searched the house, the neighborhood, the woods. No footprints, no broken branches, no sign of forced entry, just silence. The mirrors had gone dark, no reflections, no light, not even their own. The mother screamed until her voice broke. The father sat on the stairs, unmoving, staring into the center of the house like something had unraveled inside him. That night they both dreamed the same dream. They were children again, playing in the attic of a house they didn't recognize, but somehow remembered. The light was golden, dust catching in the slow spirals. A small figure watched them from the corner, the doll, but now it moved with them, spoke without sound, and as they watched, it grew, limbs stretching, face splitting down the middle into something both familiar and wrong. Elsie's face appeared behind it, whispering through clenched teeth. She needed a body. I had to go. The house isn't haunted. The house is asleep. We were its dream. Now it dreams no more. They awoke to the smell of dust and roses. The doll was back in its place on the living room mantel, clean, eyes glinting, head slightly tilted. And on the radio the news announced a missing persons report. A girl named Elsie was never enrolled at any local school. No medical records, no birth certificate. Her parents insist she existed, but authorities find no evidence she was ever born. The mother dropped the cup she was holding. It shattered against the tile floor. In the reflection of the shards, her own face, blinking out of sync with her body. That evening, she opened the attic again. There, in the middle of the room, was a full-length mirror. Not antique, not dusty, brand new. And inside it, her daughter, standing perfectly still, smiling. She reached toward it, touching the glass. It was warm. And in the reflection, the doll stood behind her, hand on her shoulder. They brought in a medium, a woman with inked skin and hollow eyes who said nothing when she stepped inside. She walked through each room with a bell and a bowl of ash, only stopping in the hallway outside Elsie's room. She dropped the bowl, whispered, "It's not just a spirit. It's a memory, a self-repeating echo that feeds on belief." Then before they could ask another question, she turned to the mother and said, "She didn't steal your daughter. Your daughter was always her. You just didn't want to see it." They tried to leave. The car wouldn't start. Then it did, but only drove in circles no matter the road. A neighbor who once visited the house claimed he could no longer remember how to get back. He stood in front of a blank field, certain it used to be their lot, certain he had just been there, certain that something had changed when he looked away. And on the final night, just before midnight, the mother stood before the doll with a hammer in hand. Her fingers trembled, her eyes were swollen, her voice cracked. "Please, just bring her back. The doll said nothing, but its mouth opened slowly, and from within she heard a voice layered in many. You asked me to watch her sleep. I did. Now, who will watch you? When the sun rose, the house was empty, clean, still. On the mantel, only a family photo remained, a man, a woman, and a little girl sitting between them, all three smiling gently, and in the little girl's arms was a doll